Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. This is Franz Sidney. We are incredibly happy to have you with us today at Create with Franz. Today, we have an amazing guest all the way from Minnesota, and her name is Dr. Joi Lewis. Thank you for coming here, Joy. Dr. Joy.
Thank you so much, Franz, for having me. I'm so excited to be here to talk about faith and music and healing and recovery, particularly after I survived a stroke in July of 2024. So this is a very timely topic in terms of music and God and connection and healing.
So good. In fact, this is the topic for today. We already announced it, so we're feeling very hopeless and tired and exhausted, and maybe we're even carrying some trauma from our ancestry because our cells have a memory of everything that happens to us and that happens to them and then passed on to us. And that's why we have phobias and insecurities and lots of anxiety. Sometimes it's just coming from them. And you may be really tired of carrying all this weight, but there are ways to get this weight a little bit lighter. There is faith, there is therapy, there is music, there is so much. And Dr. Joi Lewis, she has a whole movement and she's going to talk about how to get a transformation going using radical self care and what she calls restorative or restorative justice. Because by connecting with faith and looking at self care, not as self indulgent, but something that is sacred, is deeply spiritual, we can go forward and feel better and create the life that we want. So, how did you get started in this? I'm so curious to know.
Yes, so faith has always been a very uh, critical part of my life. And as you said, things get passed down. Some traumas and things get passed down, but also things like faith and hope get passed down too. That's a part of our DNA. And so, my ancestors were very much connected to music and God and singing, and that part has passed down to me as well. So when hard things happen, actually before hard things happen, if you are practicing things like radical self-care, where particularly I practice radical self-care through my process called the Orange Method, which has 4 practices. Meditation, which is about getting grounded, mindfulness, which is about getting present, and emotional liberation, which is about getting free, getting things up and out. And conscious movement, which is about getting moving, because you can get stuck when things happen, hard things happen. I know for me, I don't necessarily want to move. I want to just be still, but music helps you to get up and dance and move things around. Then you feel differently about it. So what I have found is that not waiting until something happens to practice radical self-care, but to have it as a part of your way of being. It's kind of like putting things aside, like in a savings account. So when you need to make a withdrawal, there's something there.
That's a great point. I love this idea that it's like a saving account. When you put a little bit, $5
It
every
adds
week,
up.
and slowly, slowly, it piles up and become better. It's the same
That's
for
right.
stress. If you keep adding and adding, and it's there, and you can't breathe anymore, and then you feel like this anger and this frustration, this sadness. So you use very special techniques for those, and for those outcomes. Do you teach those techniques?
I do. Yes.
Tell me more.
Or remind people that they're available. A lot of things like meditation, I can't claim to have created meditation. It's been around for thousands of years, but I am here to remind people that it's available to us, which is really an opportunity to stop and breathe and recenter and get to the present moment.
That's good. And I wanted to know, how did you find out that all these techniques and modalities and faith can help you to go from A to B? So there must be a moment in your life when you're like, Wow, this is so useful. I'm gonna do it more.
Really by practicing. So I was living in St. Paul, Minnesota, where I live now. And then I moved to Oakland, California. So I was very far. I had never been out the living outside the Midwest. And I started being involved in 12-step programs. And from that, I had a sponsor who introduced me to meditation. And I started meditating on a daily basis, really to get present because I was so far away from home. I needed something to feel close to that seemed familiar. And that helped me to reconnect to my higher power, who I call God. That was in 2007.
And then you had a stroke last year in July.
Yes.
Wow, that must have been a really difficult experience.
Yes, it was very difficult. I had not been sick or anything. There was no indication. In fact, that day I had done a lot. I had gone swimming, I had gone um running that day and had run a bunch of errands. We were having a party, a going away party. My niece was about to go study abroad in South Africa. So it was a beautiful day of connecting in with family and community. And I felt just fine. And then suddenly I came back and it was like the lights went out. And I'm not sure. They haven't been able to figure out what happened. But that's life. Life happens and you don't know. And I'm just so thankful that I have been practicing radical self-care for many years. And even though it did not prevent me from having a stroke, it has supported me along my healing journey. Because recovering, I was in 3 or 4 different hospitals and rehab centers. And this went on from July to October. And so during that period of time, I felt very supported, but I also felt disconnected when I wasn't able to be like connecting with people. I'm used to being in community. So having this practice of stopping and pausing and meditating and praying helped me to feel connected to something outside of myself and not just the 4 walls of a hospital room.
Did you find faith to be supportive? Did you ask God, why me? Did you go into depression because you had a stroke, so you are forced to stop your life for a certain period of time?
Fortunately, I did not go in depression. There were times that there were some days that were certainly harder than others that I was just like, why did this happen when I was doing all of this work to try to take care of myself? But then it just helped me to but my higher power, I have a relationship with. So I felt like I could talk to God like a friend and just, it gave me an opportunity. Every day I would write out a gratitude list. What were things that I'm grateful for? And I also have a process that I use through the 12 step that's called writing out a 10th step. Is there something that I'm angry, fearful, or resentful about? And I could work through that and write those things down and I hold on to them, which is also a part of my Orange Method process of emotional liberation, of not holding on and just like letting stuff just ruminate in my mind. It's okay to question and ask God or ask the the divine, what is going on? Why is this? What is the purpose? And I think that part of my purpose, some part of the answer that I've gotten has just been to stop and be still and connect and know. I've said this before, but one of my spiritual teachers, Nikki Myers, says you cannot heal. Nobody can heal by themselves. Nobody can heal themselves, but you can't. Nobody can heal for you, but you can't do it alone.
These are great points. I have quite a few friends that had stroke, some very young. They were very surprised to have a stroke. And the outcome of life really changed. And there were so many tools that they used to get back to normal or almost normal. And I'm curious because your agent was telling me about you can kind of have a committee meeting and you have that every morning and you can silence that with the orange method. I was like, you have a committee meeting in the mind? What is that?
Those are whenever you get, maybe it might not happen for everyone, but oftentimes there are voices that come that are trying to tell you different things, whether it's like try to remind you about the things you haven't done or things for you to feel bad about yourself. I call that the committee meeting.
I didn't realize how close this is to what my listeners will know after 5 years. Very something. I found one a little cartoon and I said, to the negative committee sitting in my brain. And then it says very big, shut up.
Right.
Because
But
they
you don't have
talk.
to go to every meeting that you're invited to.
Yes, it's a
Like
great
I'm
thing.
not available. And if I am already involved in the orange method by already practicing meditation or writing out my gratitude list or listening to music, then the committee meeting realizes that I'm not available.
Not available. Yeah,
Right.
leave a message and not listening to the message.
I'm not available. It's
Unexpected.
like she's already busy. So then it leaves me alone.
Yeah,
If I'm engaged in something else, I'm not available. I'm not available.
amazing. I love this approach. And I think there will be a little bit less depression in the world if we didn't just keep going with our cycle, like I'm
Right.
not good enough, this is not available to me, I'm never gonna get this. Well, if you keep thinking that, what's gonna happen?
Because the truth is, you're amazing, awesome, and brilliant. We all are. And if there are other people, there are other folks who are going to be like, you're not good enough, or you haven't done X, Y, and Z. That job is already taken. Let them have that job. You don't need to take that job on and repeat those things. That's not, no.
Absolutely. I'm curious also to go a little bit more into how you use music and singing to feel the power of God in your life, to talk to Him. Tell me more.
I mean, from the vibrations of the songs to the words of the songs, it's like getting a mini sermon every time I listen to music. It like helps me to stop and connect into the divine.
That's good. So, if a person can't sing, how can they get closer to God with the music? Is there a way? Is it just listening to it or
Just
dancing?
listening, humming, moving.
Yeah, humming also has incredible power. That's why we do it in yoga, doesn't it?
Yes.
Okay, I love that. So you have this Healing Justice Foundation. So you're empowering people, but especially from oppression-induced trauma. And I'm quite sure some people have no idea what that means. What is oppression-induced trauma?
Basically, it is trauma that is based on uh, being discriminated against because of your social identity, usually around race, class, gender, sexuality, or religion.
So it's something that we experience and then it gets stored and it makes us feel bad about ourselves that we're not good enough. And you have this complete, you also have a connection with Black Lives Matter movement, correct?
Yes.
What
Yes.
do you do with them?
I've had the pleasure of holding healing space after unfortunate incidents when particularly here in Minnesota, where um, people have been murdered by the police or the state, to bring the community together, to grieve together, to heal together, to know that you're not alone. So holding healing space where we stop and we meditate together and also listen to each other about what's bothering or where people might feel scared or concerned. So you don't have to be doing that by yourself, but to
Yeah,
come together as a community and process some of those things.
right.
And also be listened to and get hugs and laugh and cry and sing and dance and emote, which is really important.
Yeah, that's a lot of what we used to do 50 years ago, you know,
Mhm.
when people used to meet in the plaza, in the central square, and have festivals and eat, dance, listen to music, and talk to people. And now we're all kind of isolated with our little devices. We're not really having those connections. So it's very hard. When we go online, it's full of
Are,
hate.
the connections are very healing.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm. Um, I got one of the questions that Tiago was telling me, your agent. And the question is, why is radical self-care hard when oppressive systems want us sick and tired?
Because when you hear these negative things over and over again, it's kind of like programming you, basically, to just give up. Because if you give up, if you listen to it, you will turn on yourself and we'll turn on ourselves and on each other. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why it's hard. It's designed to be hard, so you won't be well.
Yeah. Division, be united. If you're not one, you're not mine, said somebody very famous here. Okay, so is there a practice that you could suggest to our listeners so they can try today to calm the nervous system? Because there are a lot of people that are on edge now. There's a polarized conversation and there's a debate and people shutting down others in the same family. They don't talk to one another because
One of
different
my favorite ones is hand over heart meditation. So you take your right hand and you put it over your heart.
like that.
Yes.
Okay,
And just take a pause and breathe. And when you do that, your whole entire central nervous system will calm down. You have a lot of healing power in your own hands. You can just by just taking your hand and putting it over your heart, you're calming your nervous system, and that's available to you at any time.
that's very good. Okay, and did you have any tips to give before we go?
Um, to stop and pause as much as possible. Uh, you'll feel like you don't have time to, but you don't have time not to. The other thing is getting present. So sometimes we just can be so worried about what happened yesterday. So you can get into morbid reflection or be trying to predict what's going to happen tomorrow. But all we really have is today. And so what can you do to bring yourself into today? I like to do the senses. So what's one thing that I see? Name one thing that I see. Name one thing that I can hear. You pause for a minute and listen to sounds and name those. What's one thing I can touch? So I'm like, oh, my necklace. I can feel all these beads. Um, so, and then if there's a taste, what's what's one thing I can taste? And you just name those things and it'll help you to come to being present right now.
That's brilliant. Maybe people will say, oh, well, that's not much. But actually, these are very important things from a neuroscience point of view. They will really help because we want the quick solution, the instant solution, the pill, something that works instantly. But sometimes it's the small things that we do every day that help us to anchor ourselves, to ground ourselves, to remember
But
what
you used to say
matters.
it's the small foxes that destroy the vine, the little bitty things. So
Yeah,
you have to pay attention to those. Just start there. Just start with the small things, and they will eventually grow into the big thing. But you can't just start with the big thing. You got to start with the small thing. So
fantastic.
hand over heart and getting present by naming your things you taste, see, and feel and hear through your senses. Start there.
Fantastic. Is there anything else that we have not talked about that you would like to share with us?
Um, I think my biggest thing is just to be as loving and kind and gentle with yourself as possible. And if you feel like I'm just giving myself a break, I need to be hard on myself, be way more kind than you think you should be. Go overboard. If you're going to go overboard on something, go overboard on the kindness and the gentleness, not on the harshness. It doesn't work.
Yeah, kindness. Kindness begins with me, said a famous song in my church. It's great, and it's so great to have you here, Dr. Joi Lewis. It's been such a pleasure to have our interview because, these basics are there. They're in the Gospels, they're part of neuroscience, they're part of our ancestry. That's how my grandparents and their own grandparents lived. It was a simple way of life where you remember what is important, you calm down, you breathe, you touch, you hug, you dance, you sing. Sometimes I think we could just go back a century and keep some of it tech, but go back there when we have those strong human connections. And my hope for you guys listening today is that you may take that time every morning to center yourself, to ground yourself before you start rushing, especially now the run up to Christmas, all the consumers
Yourself
buy,
a
buy.
gift. Give yourself that gift every day.
Right. That is the biggest gift, isn't it?
It is.
It's a big one. Well, thank you for being with us, Dr. Joy. It's been such a
Thank you for
pleasure.
having me.
Thank you. Everyone, if you like this episode, make sure you share with somebody who would like to get some benefit from creating the life that he or she wants by going back to the basics. See you all next week. Take care. Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much, Franz.
You're welcome.